Do you find yourself needing to foam roll your IT band all the time because you've got this naggy pain on the outside of your knee? Do you feel this naggy pain when you're running, hiking, and when you're doing lots of stairs, especially when you're running downhill, hiking downhill? If this sounds like you and you've been told that you may have IT band syndrome, this is the video you probably want to keep watching. Also, if you have friends or running buddies who complain of the same thing, feel free to share this video with them because I promise you this is information that you don't want to miss out on. Your IT band, or its full name being the iliotibial band, is a thick and very strong band of fascia that attaches to the hip and runs down the outside of your thigh and inserts onto the outside of the knee. That is why when our IT band is tight, a very common symptom that you may feel is that naggy pain on the outside of your knee, with it feeling like it is pulling or tugging on that outside of the knee. But because our IT band is a thick and very strong band of fascia, and it is not a contractile structure like a muscle, foam rolling our IT band is not going to help us loosen it up, no matter how hard we're foam rolling that structure. So let's stop causing ourselves more grief than is needed by just ditching that foam roller and do what I'm going to show you in this video. So instead of foam rolling the IT band, we're going to address the underlying issue of what is causing your IT band to be tight in the first place. And that is to address the biomechanical issue of your movement patterns. Because of where the IT band attaches to, the IT band is a very important structure in controlling our lower extremity motions, especially in controlling the lateral stability in our hips. Our IT band can get tight if our glute medius, which also controls the lateral stability of our hips, isn't pulling its weight to control our hip stability. And that is what can happen when our hip external rotators are weak. And very commonly, that main contributor is our gluteus medius, which is this muscle right here. When our glute medius is weak, what we commonly see is that our opposite hip will drop when we're walking or running. This is because in walking and running, we have both a stance phase and a swing phase. And it is during the swing phase that we're on one leg in order for us to walk or run forward. In running, this single leg stance is more exaggerated because we're exerting more force with each step. We're on one leg 100% of the time, since running is essentially controlled falling, where we need to catch ourselves from falling forward one leg at a time as we take each stride. IT band syndrome, or that naggy pain on the outside of our knee, is something that is so common in runners. So without further ado, here are my top 4 exercises to address the root cause of IT band syndrome so we can fix your IT band syndrome for good. So the first exercise I'm going to be showing you is the iron cross stretch. So this stretch is going to help loosen up our hips and lower back. So to do this, you want to be laying on your back. You're going to lift up one leg and then you're going to go straight downwards. You can either hold it for 30 to 45 seconds, or we can do it back and forth. So there are 2 ways of doing this. If you hold it, you're going to be mostly working on flexibility, and if you move it back and forth, it's going to be working on mobility. So there are 2 ways to do this. So the second exercise is the single leg bridge. So same thing, we're going to be laying on your back. 3 points of contact on our feet. Hands are going to be on the side. Usually I like to do a single glute bridge first with double legs just to get the movement pattern going. Once you know that you're activating your glutes when you're doing this, then you can go into that single leg stance, keeping your hips staying level, and you're going to hold it there, really squeezing your glute, and then you're going to come down. Again, driving up with that glute to bring you up, and then come back down. So making sure 3 points of contact of our foot is stable on the ground, drive up using our glute muscle, and come back down. And then after you've done 10 reps, then you can switch sides, and same thing. You want to keep your core engaged and your hips level. Squeeze your glute to come up, and then lead with your hip to come back down. Squeeze your glute to come up and come back down. Another thing you can pay attention to as well is your breathing. So when you're breathing, you want to make sure you're exhaling on the way up and inhaling on the way down. So I like to prescribe about 3 sets of 10 to 15 for this exercise. So the third exercise I have for you is the side lying hip abduction. So with this exercise, we're gonna be laying on your side. You wanna make sure that you're aligned with your whole body there, with your thigh, your torso, and your shoulder. And then what you wanna do is have your top leg, that's your working leg, bring it back slightly, turn the toes downwards so your heel is towards the ceiling, and lift the leg up. When you're lifting the leg up, you wanna make sure you're trying your best to squeeze that top glute muscle there, and then come back down. Squeeze that top glute muscle and come back down. So you wanna make sure with this exercise, again, your core is gonna be engaged so you're not arching the back. And also, you wanna make sure that leg is brought all the way back and it's not out here in front. Because if it's in front and you feel the front of the hip working, it probably means that your leg isn't back enough. If your leg is in the front, you're gonna be targeting your TFL muscle, which is probably gonna be tight if you have IT band pain. So make sure you bring your leg all the way back, turn your heel towards the ceiling, and then come up. I like to hold it for a few seconds, and then we're gonna come down, again, come up, and come down. If you do enough of this, typically this one does burn. Make sure your core is engaged. Same thing, breathe out on the way up, breathe in on the way down, and I like to do 3 sets of 15 to 20 with this exercise. So the fourth exercise I have for you is the banded lateral walk. So with this exercise, you wanna tie a loop with your band, or if you have those circle bands already, great, you could just use those. So I like to have the band at your feet, because this is the most challenging way to do this. And when you're doing this, you wanna make sure that you're keeping resistance on the band the whole time, so then this makes it challenging. So what you wanna do is engage your core, bend the knees slightly, hinge your hips back. So we're trying to target that gluteus medius muscle, so you wanna make sure you do this hinge properly. And then you're gonna walk sideways, like the name suggests, keeping the tension on the band. So I always like to tell my clients to keep tension on the band by taking a big step and then a little step. A big step and a little step. Big step and little step. So make sure your core is engaged and you don't lose the tension on the band. You should feel both of your hips there. That outside top parts of your hips are gonna be burning if you do enough of these. So big step and little step. If this is too challenging for you, you can try having the band at your ankles. So the exact same thing applies, slight bend in the knees, hips back, and you're gonna walk, keeping tension on the band. So this is already a lot easier for me. Same thing, do both sides. And if this is still too hard, feel free to have the band even higher up, just above the knees. Or if you have a very tight band, you might need to start like this. That's totally fine, and then you can work your way down. So same thing, hip hinge and walk. Because the farther away the band is, the harder it's going to be. So you can always play around with that yourself. And I like to prescribe 3 sets of 20 on each side. So those were my top 4 exercises to help us fix our IT band syndrome for good. Thank you so much for watching. If you want more content from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in my next video.
And action!